Regard this fleeting world. I'm already moved. Regard this fleeting world as a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. You know, that's so powerful because it's the because the fleeting world is all we have, and we're trying to make some substance out of it. We're trying to make it realer than it is. We're trying to make it like as the soul is so desperately yearning for something eternal.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, it's Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host, senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. It's episode 1546, Thursday, March 6th, 2025. And we're back at the farm, and Kaustubha is live from his cell phone up in Rishikesh. It's like an all-day hippie backpacker spiritual affair up in Rishikesh, and Indrajumna Swami's throwing the party. It's quite impressive. How is it out there? You're meeting seekers of the world, God?
Every day, every night. You know, I do this, again, I do a class in the morning for an hour, and then I do which are great. You know, a lot of people come, and good mood in that place. It fills up the room, you know, it feels great. And then
Speaking of filling up the room, you got the right mic on?
I hope
I
so.
want to check it. I hear
This
a little bit
doesn't sound
of
right to you?
sounds like a weird echo, sir.
That's because, have you done the thing on Riverside, Mary? Have you turned down the volumes on Riverside?
Yeah.
She's on her game.
I don't know what it is.
Right.
Anyway, what should I do?
It might just be
It's
the
not
room. It's okay.
All right.
So continue
So-
on. Every day, you're sitting
So,
there, you're asking questions. People are answering questions. People are coming up to you, picking your
Well, that's in the
spiritual
evening.
brain.
That's in the evening. In the evening, there's like outside the kirtan hall is like the open outdoor area. On one end, they have a huge prasadam distribution thing going on, which, you know, is great. And then, but right in front, you know, when you first walk into the big open outdoor area, there's like a place where girls can put on, get a free sari, and they put it on you. They have gopi dots and henna booths. And then there's a question and answer booth that I do. We put out, I don't know, maybe like 15 seats, and they fill up, and then a lot of people kind of gather around. And all the henna people and stuff, they're kind of listening into, you know. So all together, sometimes it's about 30 people. Some of the people throw questions, and we just go into it, you know, all together. We all go into these, they're throwing out questions, and we just have nice discussions, you know.
It's funny because a lot of the people that come there, you know, they're backpackers. They're sort of like unkempt a little bit, you know, like straggly dreadlock hair. And then there's all these saris. And they could just say, yeah, you want to get a sari? And like everything else in the world, if someone says you want to get a sari, the first question you have is, well, how much are they? I have no money. They're like, no, they're donated. You could just pick out a sari. And they're like, oh, okay. I was sitting there just as an observer watching these ladies come up. And then all of a sudden, it gets exciting. You put on a sari, then they're sit down. We're going to do some henna. We're going to do some gopi dots. And it's like a fashion show. They're losing it. And the Vedic culture is so beautiful. Again, it's a culture that doesn't conquer by the sword. It conquers by the culture. It's beauty, it's richness, it's joy. You don't have to do these weird, sick, you know, demonic conversions of other cultures. And if you read the history of India, which I'm reading right now, it's just it's one horror story after another. Cultures coming in, trying ways to manipulate, you know, manipulate them, trying to crush them. You can't crush it. It's sort of like one of those whack-a-moles, or one of those you know, balloons you try to squeeze and it pops up somewhere else. And so many cultures have
popped
come
up in the West, right? Like,
I know
it
blew up in the West, you know. And there's a yoga studio. There's Ayurvedic practitioners all over America, in Russia, in all over Europe, bigger than ever. bigger than ever. And it's only going to get bigger, especially as this world gets a little, you're missing out on all the love here in America. It's like it's full on hate war going on. And it's just
Okay.
like, yeah, it's like you have an option just to not tune into it. But as the world gets divided, my theory is it's going to clear the center stage for Lord Chaitanya to walk right through,
Okay.
shed some light on this dark world.
Good. Good. So
But
anyway,
we're
it's
glad you're
wonderful
there.
here. Yeah, this is a manifestation of. I meet people every day, Raghunath, that are just like, everything clicks in their head, because it's all, my role here is to kind of speak the philosophy. They've kind of got the kirtan 100% down, the hospitality 100% down, the culture, the prasadam, and when all that is there, and you speak the philosophy, everybody's like, okay, this is it. I get it. You got
Where do
everything
I
here.
where do I opt in for joining your club?
And,
Now,
and every day people walk up to me and saying, this is what I've been looking for. This is it. And I'm like,
you know what?
wow.
And you're a great person to have there too, because you can really deliver it and make it very, very relatable, digestible, understandable, not too far. How many times do people go to India? You find a guru. First of all, you find an Indian guru, and this is nothing against Indian gurus or Indian teachers, but first of all, there's a language barrier. So sometimes it's like they can say something that's either vague or you just don't quite understand them. And you're like, yes, yes, yes. But because you speak their language, you can actually give them practical advice of how to add spirituality to your life back home, what
Yeah,
it means
we
to be a
notice how this
sadhu, what it
works.
means to be a householder. And and the interesting thing is it's like even when I first started doing jujitsu in the like late 90s, there was like masters of the Brazilians all came to America and started teaching jiu-jitsu. It was quite impressive. These guys were like world masters. There was only a few in America. You could train with them personally, but a lot of their students I found to be better teachers, not because they were necessarily better fighters, but they could just like better communicators. A guy from Long Island, like Matt Sarah. I don't know if you know him. He's like a UFC guy, but he was like up and coming fighter, and he wasn't the master at that time, and now it's like he just explained jujitsu to me in a really um, understandable way, and was
And there's
easy to
less of a
keep.
cultural barrier between Brazil and America than there is between India and America.
Oh yeah, and of course, what to speak of? You go to India and you get a guy who's like philosophically either off or just doesn't understand. Like you've actually spent the time studying different religious paths of India and how they actually tie together and how they're
Right.
how they're useful. Like from studying the Bhagavatam itself, it talks about other paths
That's
within Sanatan Dharma, and you can explain that to them.
that's when things start to click for people, I think, when you see, okay, you give me a way to put all these pieces together where they all make one clear picture, because it's confusing
Sure,
otherwise.
sure. And when you get these people who actually want to change their life, then it's like a person like yourself really comes and you can actually give them something valuable. Sometimes people go to India, they just want to seek and they want to keep seeking. Have you ever meet people like that? They don't actually want an answer. They just want to meet interesting people. And that's okay too. But it's sort of like they're actually not looking for answers. They're just sort of curious. And in the name of being a seeker, they're just like sort of cruising through this world.
But it's beautiful when you meet that sincere seeker, though, and
Mm.
everything's kind of lighting up inside me. Oh, and I think you know now, but 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I met a guy, came running up to me. Hey, I'm here because of Pongta Monk. This really nice guy named, I think his name is Joshua. And
All right.
yeah, he came up and said, I'm
Where
here
was he
because of
from?
Pongta Monk.
Where was he from?
Oh, well, he's from the States, but I forget where.
Oh,
But
that's cool.
he said, he's always been thinking about going to India or doing this or doing that. And he said he read Punk He said, okay, I'm going. And he popped
Wow.
right into Rishikesh, and he's hanging out with us every day now.
Is he a hardcore guy?
I would assume, but I haven't gotten into that with him. But
It's
it would make
interesting.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I met a lot of people on this
Like,
trip,
again,
random punk
in our
among
day,
people.
in our day, you knew when someone was into hardcore. It was like written all over them, like literally written on them, all over them.
Right.
Nowadays, you
Well,
don't know.
in our days, first of all, if you had a shaved head, I remember
Oh,
walking
yeah.
around through Connecticut or something. If someone had a shaved head, I'd be like, "Whoa, I'm gonna, hey, are you into the dead Kennedys?" Something like that. It was either or a mohawk. They were either a punk, which was a very weird, unique thing in the suburbs of Connecticut, or they were in the military. They was like, no, man, I don't even know what you're talking about. So yeah, it was definitely a statement to have an earring, to have, just culture was
Earring.
just, oh yeah, if you had an earring back then, you were either,
Earring.
you're just like you're making a bold stance and you're risking getting your butt kicked. That was just crazy. And growing up where we grew up in suburban New York and Connecticut.
Even in
Nityananda
the city,
Chandra
I mean,
says
it was
his
the
son is reading Punk to Monk on the
everybody's
subway.
reading Punk to Monk.
Everyone's doing it except Stuba, trying to
Except
figure out
me.
why.
I will get there. I will
I
get
can't. The only way I'm going to make this guy read the book is if I
there. You're gonna read it
sit
to me.
on his lap and read it to him.
All right, I got a nugget today, but first we have to hear from Mara.
Oh, Mara's going to the doctor today, by the way.
Yeah,
She's
Mara,
a little nervous.
I want to
She's a
hear
little
her. I
nervous.
want you to send me the info, whatever you get,
All right.
right away.
You know whose birthday I think is today is Sita Sundari. So I wanted to wish her a happy birthday.
Ah, Cindy Lunsford, Sita Sundari, Harry Bowl, Nashville, Bhakti Yoga.
And then also there's some spaces still open for Narayani has a reading group every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. If anybody wants to join, they can reach out to Narayani.
You know what everybody
Yeah.
says about Narayani as soon as we mention the name Narayani? She's such a nice girl. That Narayani,
Oh,
She's the best.
she's the best.
everybody loves Narayani.
Everybody loves Narayani. That could be a TV show. Okay. Thank you for those messages. All right, Kostuba.
I
Give me
sent you the
that.
nugget. Did you got it? Otherwise, I can read it.
Yeah, it's from the Buddha himself, which
Apparently, you never know,
skeptical.
right?
Always skeptical. Did the Buddha say that? Come
I
on.
have no idea. No idea. Okay, I think you're frozen now, Raghunath. So I think Raghunath froze because I see David Houseworth moving
How
around.
many things did the Buddha have?
Okay, Raghunath. I don't know. You're freezing up, Bubba.
Okay. Wait, I'm frozen.
You here? You got me? Do you hear me? I'm
Yeah,
going to
now
read
I'm
the
back,
nugget.
I think.
Okay.
Okay. My internet's got issues too. I know yours does. It's
Yeah.
been raining. For some reason, the internet doesn't work in the rain. What is this, 1997?
Gotta get Manish back
Elon
over
Musk,
there.
you haven't figured that one out yet. Come on.
Elon Musk.
I'm paying for
What are you doing?
Starlink here.
Yeah. Forget about Mars for a second.
Yeah,
And,
and help me do this podcast.
Okay. But do you want to read it? Do you want me to read it?
I'll go. Regarding the fleeting world.
No, not regarding.
Regard this fleeting
Sorry.
world. Regard this fleeting world. I'm already moved. Regard this fleeting world as a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. You know, it's so powerful because it's because the fleeting world is all we have, and we're trying to make some substance out of it. We're trying to make it realer than it is. We're trying to make it like as the soul is so desperately yearning for something eternal, and it's nowhere to be found. It's not to be found in my little children because soon they're going to be teenagers, or soon they're going to be having their own children, or soon I'm going to be the old man they're wheeling around. It's not to be in your house because many of us have had many houses in our lifetime. It's not going to be found in our garden because the flowers wilt. You know, it's not going to be found in the sandcastle I build on the beach. It's not going to be found in these things. It's just so fleeting, and we want so bad it to be solid. Even now, it's like I'm hanging up pictures in my room, in our room, and it's like, this is when we did this. This is a picture when we did this. This is my kids when they did this. It's just like my life is just a box of photos in photo frames that are eventually going to be taken down either when I move or when I die, and they're going to shove them in, probably distribute a few of them, throw them the rest in a dumpster, and unless I focus on what actually is eternal, and this is what the mystery of the world is what is eternal, because there is a natural urge to embrace eternal things. It's just not in the things that we have. That's why I was so overwhelmed with my stone wall last year.
So overwhelmed.
Right? It was the closest thing I had to eternity in the material world. I built a stone wall.
But
I
Raghunath,
was so happy about it.
But Raghunath,
Yeah.
regard your stone wall as a bubble in a stream,
You know, I
as
know
a
what it's.
flickering lamp.
Yeah,
Huh?
I know.
Even
We'll
that
even have to
stone
walk away
wall.
from the stone wall.
What if I
But
went there and I dismantled your stone wall? Would that set you free?
I
Would that be
dismantle
good?
you.
Oh man.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting how the soul desperately wants something lasting?
You know, it's like we were talking about this on the show the other day. I think was it in the Q&A recently? We're saying like this world is a virtual reality, but it's got this program downloaded and it's called time. And it just takes everything, all our potential
Mm.
consistent contentment and satisfaction and enjoyment, and it just it throws a wrench into the whole thing because no matter what, no matter how good something gets in this world, it's got that feature of time connected to it. And it means it's going to run out on us, and then we feel the pain. And so the yogis are saying, try to understand not just that this world is a bubble in a stream and a star at dawn and a flickering lamp and all of that, but understand that there is something beyond that. And the fact that in this realm it's not eternal is our indication. It's what's supposed to wake us up and say, let me reach for the eternal. Let me connect with the eternal, right? And we do it. It begins by hearing these texts. It begins by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. You hear it every morning, and it gives you that zoomed out perspective. It gives us a perspective that's beyond time, and that is invaluable. If you can actually see your existence from a perspective that's beyond time, in other words, that I exist beyond the temporary. What it does, it not only does it give you the ability to transcend it all, but like you transcend it even while you're in it. That you're already anticipating the what you're going to lose. So when it comes, you're already ready for it. You know, sometimes
I was ready. Yeah.
yes, sometimes we lose a loved one suddenly, and it's shocking. And sometimes we lose a loved one, and it's been building up for a long time, and you're already adjusted by the time it happens, and it doesn't crush you in the same way. And when you really understand time, it kind of sets you up to gracefully deal with anything, you know, because you've already come to terms with the fact that you're going to lose everything, and that's bringing you up to reach for something solid. And it's out there. It's in these texts. These texts are incredible, you know?
Yeah, you know, I've seen because I was in a band for many years, and I've seen bands tour on the road, especially in this real Tamasic culture of hookup culture where I've got a girl in this city and I've got a girl in this city. And you see guys do this type of thing. And even people who've exhausted that privilege of this guy can, you know, have a girl in different cities. I've seen people become to this point of this is exhausting. I want a lasting relationship because
Right.
inherently they want something lasting, and just cheap thrills here and there where you both treat you treat yourself with, you act out of integrity and treat yourself as Dixie cups, disposable. Like your body is disposable, your sexuality is disposable, your emotions are disposable. It weakens you. It breaks inside you. And so even at the material platform, we think, well, you know what? I want a family. I want a wife. I want children. I want something. But the interesting thing is, as much as we want that, when we come to that epiphany, I want that. Even then, you know, the Vedas come like almost like a hammer and just sort of point out, actually, that lasting thing in the material world, that too is temporary.
Yeah.
That too. And even though it resonates a higher vibe, sattva definitively resonates a higher vibe than tamas. It's still temporary. And this is the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita, especially. It takes us right out of tamas, rajas, and sattva, these three gunas, and like the entire yoga system has you rise to this sattvic plane. But then I actually ask you, okay, we're going to take one giant step out of this material universe. We're not going for let's worship the demigods. We're not just going to chant mantras to the demigods and hope for some metaphysical perks in the material world. we're actually going right outside this material world. This is Shabda Brahman. This is the spiritual energy now, where this is beyond birth and death.
Satyam.
Satyam. Because
Ladies
Stuba and
and
me has
gentlemen,
such a history, we can make insider Hare Krishna jokes.
Satyam. That was. You want to share what that was? I think we talked about it.
No, it's top secret, but I will say. Anyway, I'll tell you later.
Okay. All right. So Raghunath, today we've been saying that we've been kind of skipping some verses because they're long lists of names, and in the past 2 chapters we just focused in on certain places where it expanded. It was giving lists of names, and then it expanded a little bit about a person, and then went back to the list of names. And both of those expansions involved this idea of people accepting somewhat unfair treatment, and accepting it with grace and actually growing through it, and being blessed by it, being blessed by their very mature handling of it. Now we begin the next chapter, chapter 4 of Canto 9. And again, it begins with a list of names, and it's going down that list. But then it comes to text 13. In text 13, a new character is introduced, and we're going to go for a few chapters on this character. This becomes one of the key leelas, or the key narrations in Bhagavatam, a very famous one, a very important one, and that's the narration of the great king named Ambarish. All right, a lot to learn here. A lot about bhakti is taught through Ambarish. So he gets introduced in text 13. You want to start there?
Yeah. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim yasam tato jayam madhirayat. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya, bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to my heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, Text 13. Okay, so here we go. In this genealogical table, from Nabaga, Maharaj Ambarish took birth. Maharaj Ambarish was an exalted devotee, celebrated for his great merits, and although he was cursed by an infallible Brahmana, the curse could not touch him. It's interesting that how the way we were raised in America, we were raised to despise kings. And in India, it's the opposite. There is this idea of a noble king, a courageous king, a spiritual king. Even this whole concept that was really, condemned in my 8th grade social studies class, the divine right of kings. It's like, why are you the king? Because God has chosen me to be the king. We actually believe that. We actually believe there's a divine right of an emperor. But it wasn't just random, and it wasn't just a seminal birth. It was because they are living like pure devotees. Very interesting. So, and to read the life of not just these ancient kings, but even modern, I wouldn't say modern, but within the last 600 years and 700 years of how these kings of India were living, it's quite impressive. And they all have a unique dharma. Right now, we're just so lost and confused in the world. We're trying to figure out, what is my purpose? I need to get a life coach. I need to figure out what is my offering. It was really set up already. You're king. This is your dharma. This is what you're supposed to do to perfect your kingship. This is what you don't do. This is what you're allowed to do. Okay, you're a shop owner. This is your dharma. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. Everything was really spelled out.
But not in the sense that it was oppressive, but actually those guidelines were developed to prevent oppression, right? In other words, like when we hear, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that, we're saying, why are you boxing me in? But the point was saying, hey, employers out there, you got to take care of your, you've got to take care of your
Sure.
workers. Hey,
Sure.
teachers out there, you've got to be uncorruptible. You have to be pure. Hey, politicians, you got to be willing to risk your life on the battlefield if you're going to bring people into war. You know, you can't just sit behind the thing. You got to be running out front. You know.
Good point.
So,
And
so yeah.
go ahead. And because there was a different goal of life, and it was shared. The goal of life was not economic development. It wasn't like, okay, I'm at the bottom, I gotta crawl my way to the top. I'm gonna, go to America. We're gonna, buy a comfort inn, and we're gonna struggle. In one generation, we're gonna, change our economic bracket, and then you guys are gonna live the good life. No, that wasn't the idea. The idea was we have a place in life, and this is hard for an American to get because we're all about the American dream. But the dream was not economic development, not by the latest gadgets, because there were no gadgets. It was liberation. If I can be liberated, and if I can find peace within this life, if I can find serenity within this life, that's the win. If I can have a good family, truth, adding truth to my life. And ultimately, we understand that even that, whether I'm poor, whether I've got some money saved, whether I'm a king or I'm some royalty or a warrior, if I'm going to die on the battlefield, anyway, I'm going to do this for God, and I'm going to try my best, and I'm going to have some peace of mind. Yeah. Isn't it good to know that if there was a war, you're not going to have to fight in it if you're not a warrior?
And if you're a warrior, you're kind of down for that.
Yeah, if you're a warrior, like, yeah, I've been waiting for something like this. Yeah, about time. I need a good call.
All right. Text 14.
Text 14.
But the first thing we're hearing about, again, these genealogical tables that we've been hearing, we don't hear too much about people. Usually, like this one verse, Ambarish, he was an exalted devotee, celebrated for his great merits. He got cursed by a great Brahmana, powerful Brahmana, but the curse couldn't touch him. Okay, that was enough for Prickett now to say, tell me more about that. Normally, he's just knocking down the list down of names. Now King Prickett is going to say to Shukadeva Goswami, tell me more about him, Ambarish.
Yeah, and you got to understand, it also has to do with Ambarish has this quality. We're in the 9th canto now. To really understand Krishna in the 10th canto, you have to have this quality of Ambarish. We're all building up to this 10th canto where Lord Krishna appears, and we want to understand who this young cowherd boy is. And we've heard about all these powerful avatars, and then we hear, it's this little child. This little child. This is not an ordinary little child. So here's Maharaj. So let's hear about Maharaj Ambarish. Oh, great personality. Maharaj Ambarish was certainly most exalted and meritorious in character. I wish to hear about him. How surprising it is that the curse of the Brahmana, which is insurmountable, could not act upon him.
Yeah, and we're talking about Durvasa Muni. He's got a reputation,
Yeah, not only that, he's not just a reputation as a sage. He's a plenary expansion of Lord Shiva. Plenary doesn't mean. What does plenary mean? Can you look that up?
Plenary means it has the full power.
The full power. So I always thought plenary means like, well, okay, a plenary portion of Raghunath is Raghunath's pinky. That's not plenary portion. It means he has a full, right? Is Mara?
It means complete in every respect.
Okay, so he's a plenary portion of Lord Shiva. So how can Lord Shiva's curse not affect a devotee? Maharaj Ambarish, that's confusing.
I think you froze up. You're saying about plenary. What did you think it was?
I was saying I always thought plenary means a piece of, like a plenary portion of Raghunath is his pinky. But according to Random House Dictionary, Merriam-Webster, it is everything. It's that in full.
Yeah, you see, Prabhupada often says it like there's Krishna, and then there's his portions and his plenary portions. And so it sounds like he's saying it's going down, like it's getting less and less, but it's not really. It's actually, he says his portions, which are less, and his plenary portions, which is more, right? Like it's a more full manifestation of Krishna's power, the plenary portion.
Okay, Aaron Erskine is correcting me. He's saying Durvasa is not quite a full potency of Lord Shiva. Okay,
Where did you
Corrected
get
by
that?
Bhakti Aaron. Okay. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
How many years have you been around, Dr. Aaron?
You ever do that one? Your guru quotes a verse wrong from the Bhagavad Gita, and you're like, actually, Guru Maharaj, it's this. It's like, okay, yeah. Don't you worry, Aaron. I don't care. No offense. Actually, Aaron, that little correction has everything to do with this story.
Yeah. You ever hear of cursing before, Aaron?
Okay,
No,
let's see.
Love
Sukadeva
it.
Goswami said, Maharaj Ambarish, the most fortunate personality, achieved the rule of the entire world. So he's not a king, he's an emperor, consisting of the 7 islands, and achieved inexhaustible, unlimited opulence and prosperity on earth. Although such a position is rarely obtained, Maharaj Ambarish did not care for it at all, for he knew very well that all such opulence is material. That's the amazing thing about a king. They're doing it all out of duty. Like that which is imagined in a dream, such opulence will ultimately be destroyed. You know who? What was that quote you said by Alexander the Great, Mara? Do you remember that? Alexander the Great, when he died, they wanted an open casket with his arm hanging out, so they could see that this hand, I think, that held a scepter is actually empty. Nothing's in the hand.
And they had all the greatest physicians who carried the casket.
All the
because
greatest physicians carried the casket because they couldn't save him, and they
they're
sprinkled
dead.
wealth like coins, maybe gold, all over the street to show that I can't hold on to anything. So I think people, when they get this realization, hopefully they're trained with this realization, but they get it. Hopefully you get it at the time of death. So it seems like Ambarish was already very in tune. The king knew that any devotee who attains such opulence merges increasingly into material nature's mode of darkness.
Any non-devotee.
Any non-devotee, sorry. Maharaj
Yes.
Ambarish
So let's just take a look at this verse for a second here. So now we're getting Shukadeva Goswami he was asked to give a broader explanation of Maharaj Ambarish. And this is the first verse of several chapters that are going to speak of, that are going to get it started. And Ambarish is going to become important because, again, the whole Bhagavatam is illustrating that if you've been reading the Vedic literatures and the Upanishads and the Mahabharata and the Vedas and the Puranas and all this, and you're confused about where it all goes, well, in this book, Vyasa is going to make it clear that it all culminates in bhakti. And Ambarish is known as the person who fully surrenders himself in bhakti, right? Atma Nivedana, just like giving everything in bhakti. He becomes this really important example of bhakti. It's shown that with his humility, his simplicity, his just simple devotion, even when he's cursed by the most powerful mystic, even when the most powerful mystic goes after him, he doesn't even retaliate. He doesn't even try to avoid it, but just based on his purity. He's Vishnu is so deeply because he loves Vishnu, Vishnu loves him, and he's just like untouchable, right? He's like untouchable.
There's no more why me.
Oh, none at all.
This is unfair. His hands folded. This is Krishna's mercy. Whatever is coming your way, this is Krishna's mercy.
So coming right out of the bat, the first thing that he says about Ambarish is he's Mahabhaga. He's greatly fortunate. This isn't, we may talk about other fortunate people, people that had great wealth or people that, had great fame or accrued great karma, but he's Mahabhaga. He's greatly fortunate. Not because he was ruling the earth, but because he had this great devotion. He had no attachment to the material stuff. So he's truly greatly fortunate. That means we can understand already, if he saw, we know that he has devotion, right? We know that he has bhakti. That's going to be very clear. But what it's showing right here is that if you think Brahman realization, the realization where you realize I'm not my body, I'm beyond all this, I have no material attachments. If you think that's the goal, he's got that. With his devotion that's already there. He, just like the Jnana Yogi, he had all the stuff that Jnani yogis will never even have. And even when he had it, he saw it all as a dream. You know, even it's one thing to figure out that material things are like a dream. It's another thing if you own the world and you can still see everything material as a dream. So right off the bat, it says he's greatly fortunate, and although he's super prosperous, he sees it all like a dream. He's got Brahman realization that's within his devotion. Okay.
Alrighty. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged. Wait, no. Maharaj Ambarish was a great devotee of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, and of the saintly persons who are the Lord's devotee. He was a devotee of the saintly persons also who are the Lord's devotees. Because of this devotion, he thought of the entire universe as being insignificant as a piece of stone. We know many devotees like this, right?
Sure.
Like they're just so, they're not of this world. You actually can develop a life like this. If it sounds so foreign, if it sounds so, that's unattainable. It's attainable. We see people like this all the time. The things they value are not of this world. And their work is not of this world. I'm always fascinated when I meet these great devotees, and I'm like, this guy's amazing. You know what I'm listening to lately, Prabhu? I'm listening to that 50 Years of ISKCON thing by Sitala.
Okay,
She just goes through it in a non-judgmental way, tell like the ups and downs of creating a spiritual institution, and it's so spoken, not with any resentment. Even when things went south, there was no resentment. She's got a great attitude, moving forward, and she is 100% focused on the guru's desire. And that especially that generation was so empowered and so focused and so inspired by Prabhupada's teaching. I put that down every time I listen to it on YouTube, and I'm just like, who are these people? They're not of this world. They put all material desires aside and are just focused on serving the guru. And because of it, they have some special, almost like magical wealth, not wealth of this world. They put wealth of this world secondary. And sure enough, they're always taken care of. Somehow, magically, they're taken care of. And I'm so impressed by these people. And I feel like maybe because I'm getting older and I'm seeing, I'm seeing my wrinkles and my gray hair and my beard. And I'm feeling like, yeah, Raghunath, these are the people you got to follow. Not the people who are trying to hold on to their youth and hold on to their things of this world. Follow the people that have hold on to Krishna's feet. And I feel like Krishna's just putting these people in front of me to give me a dropped pin, or a type of heroes. We need heroes in this world. We're always looking for heroes. And if we don't find it with saintly people, we'll find it with basketball stars. We'll find it with celebrities or sports stars or some type of athletes or comedians or actors. But when you read books like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the heroes are like people like this, Maharaj Ambarish. He had everything. He was an emperor of everything, completely detached, saw it all as a dream. If you're attracted to material world and material wealth and material power, Ambarish is your hero. Make Ambarish your hero, not whatever, some, sultan or some prince of the Middle East or something, or Elon Musk. Or make this king your hero. He had everything. Can you imagine that? Hello. I just gave a 20-minute lecture and I think I was frozen. Oh, maybe Kastuba's frozen. Or maybe he's in Samadhi right now. Oh, Kastuba is in Samadhi. This is quite exciting. Sure, I'll read. You keep an eye open for Kastuba. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. By the way, this isn't him. These are recommendations for us. When you close your eyes, can you picture Krishna in your mind? That is a practice you can do while you're driving, not driving in the car, but if you're in the passenger seat, don't drive the car. You can close your eyes at night. You can close your eyes and you can think, what is Krishna wearing? What does Krishna look? I've been working on this lately. You know, if we chant Nishringadev prayers, what is Nishringadev wearing? What is the Lord wearing? You can do this about your guru. How's the guru sitting? And get these in your mind as a mental photograph and get it crystal clear that you can close your eyes and you're right there with Krishna. Now, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple. So we have an altar. So you can always, when you think of that, you're thinking, I'm cleaning this for Krishna. His ears, walk around with your phone. I blast my phone in my pocket and hear pastimes of the Lord. Even when I'm walking around the house, or people are singing songs or hearing kirtan on a regular basis. That's what the ears are for, right? And you'll know when you deviate from that, because you'll be thrown back in the wonderful world of ups and downs of the gunas. And hearing the words of Krishna spoken by Krishna. Okay. He's engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples, and Krishna's holy places like Mathura and Vrindavan. That's where you went to the hospital in Mathura. It'll never be the same, Mara. The Mathura hospital filled with a bunch of nurses going, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe. We're like, okay, I appreciate the Jai Radhes, but I just had a seizure. Please help me.
It's great. They came to take my blood and they're like, Radhe, Radhe. I was like, oh, that's so nice.
They came by to me. I was like, excuse me, nurse, have you seen it? And then they just like put some chandan on my forehead. I was like, okay, thank you for that. I know you just had puja here at the hospital, but I really want to find out if my partner's feeling okay. First puja, then we don't take her blood pressure.
I'm back, Raghu.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're in text 18 now, huh?
No, we're text 20. 18 to 20.
18 through 20. I mean, this is a very famous passage here, right? Super incredibly famous passage. This is
how to engage all your senses.
Yeah, this is the verse that's kind of describing how Bhakti Yoga works, is that other yoga paths, you withdraw the senses. Right?
Very interesting, huh?
Yeah, other yoga paths, you take Ashtanga yoga, there's this pratyahara, right? You sit very still and you close your eyes and you try to turn all your awareness inward. Here there's an idea of how your inner self can be expressed externally by taking your senses, which are normally seen as problematic in yoga, right? Normally it's like there's something that they're meant to be restrained. Here they're engaged and engaged in beautiful ways, but it becomes the most powerful form of yoga. So we heard that Ambarish is this incredibly influential, powerful king, that he's so deeply spiritual that curses can't touch him, that he owns everything, but he sees it like a dream. So he's got Brahman realization. So he's got what these other yogis who are trying to restrain their senses to attain. He's already got that, but he's got his senses engaged. But it's all engaged in Krishna's, and that's what makes all the difference.
That's our little trick. Unless you're living in a cave, which most of us are not, we're in the material world. We got to figure out how to tie our work, our thoughts, our recreation, our meals, right? Our service. We have to figure out, how can I connect the dots? We're building a bridge here. We're building a bridge. How can I use this body so I'm becoming enlightened? Right? Some of us are going to go to the gym today or work out how can that not just be for my body? How can it be for God? How can it be for service? How can I tie that? How can I build that bridge? Or we'll go to yoga today. How can that be just not so I feel good, but how can I link that with Krishna? Sometimes people are working on saving money. How can we tie this to Krishna? Some people are working on being healthy in their diet, or cooking in the kitchen, or cooking food for their kids, or taking their kids. In all of our activities, we have to build that bridge. How is this connected with bhakti, my liberation, my family's liberation, my meditation? Because he gets very explicit. His eyes in seeing Krishna, words in describing Krishna. When I was growing up with the little kids, when I was raising my children, I have to tell them stories because that's what parents do. So how can I tell them stories about Krishna? It's sort of simple like that. There's ways to do it. There's ways to tell your kids stories about Krishna that gives them like gives them the same benefit as the Grimm's brothers story tales, but you insert Krishna into that. You know,
Yeah.
they want to be entertained. They want their parents to read to them. And so you just insert Krishna. We really don't have to change that much. We really don't have to let go of that much unless we're doing really obstructional things or have really detrimental habits. We just have to build that bridge to I'm not meditating on anything, or I'm doing this for my ego, and my intelligence is running on autopilot. We have to build that bridge where I'm actually thinking, how is this connected to my Lord? And that's bhakti.
You know, a couple days ago, I went somewhere with um, Satyanandan Swami, Gauravani, Badahari, and a group of devotees here.
Yeah.
And you know, Vikram, who's so kind and shows us around these different areas. He brought us to the deity of Rishikesh, you know, in
Ah.
Rishikesh. Yeah, which is like, that's the very ancient deity, you know, very. They say that deity was worshipped by Prahlad Maharaj, by Dhruva Maharaj, and was
So interesting.
reestablished, you know, in the 8th century by Shankaracharya. And beautiful deity of Vishnu. But Rishikesh means the Lord of the senses, right? The idea is that our senses are in one sense, they're this artificial equipment, you know, it's like if we're in a virtual reality, it's the virtual body that we have, you know, the virtual sight and the virtual sound, you know, the virtual ears and the virtual eyes. And most of the yoga systems say we need to detach ourselves from these senses. We need to kind of shut them down. Again, turn them inward or shut them down. Here's the example, you know, that devotee Rishikesh, the whole, it's Lord Vishnu, the Lord of the senses, that take whatever you've got in this virtual world and just make it an offering to him, and everything becomes perfect. And so Ambarish, you know, they say that's how bhakti's practiced, right? Sarvapati vinirmuktam taparat vena nirmalam. Hrishikesha hrishikena sevanam bhakti ruchate. That this is bhakti, that you, rather than shut down your senses, you engage them in the service of the God that provided them for you and who's monitoring them all.
Sure.
And in that way, you over sarvapati vinirmuktam, you let go of all your false senses of false identities, and you become established in your true eternal identity.
You know, I think after I gave my little liturgy, is it liturgy or soliloquy about, you know, building a bridge, connecting everything that you do, there were some cynics out there going, well, that's easy for you to do. You got your yoga teachers and you know, you have this podcast and it's very easy to connect it. Guess what? It's always been difficult to connect it. But if you think you can't connect your lifestyle with Krishna, you're wrong. You can. A king did it. You think a king's not doing a Bhagavatam podcast every day. A king is not a yoga teacher. You know what a
Right.
king's worried about? He's worried about invaders. He's worried about the public. He's worried about famine. He's worried about the farmers. He's worried about his
Economy.
queen. He's worried about the economy. He's worried about grains. A king has got so many things on his mind,
Right.
but a king has figured out what to do to connect himself. A lot of it, Kostuba, and maybe you can shed some light on this too, is a daily worship, a home in your home, some type of connection, a little altar, a
Taking
little
your
photo.
senses,
That could be as simple as a photograph.
Yeah.
This is my photograph of Krishna. There's my photograph of my teachers. There's a photograph. And I want to remember my teachers 3 times a day. I want to remember Krishna in the morning. I want to have a
You know,
flower and I'm going to pick a flower, you know?
I'll tell you something, Robert. You know,
You
I'm
tell me.
here. By the time I leave, which is a couple weeks from now, I'll be here for a complete month. And and I've mentioned this earlier. We've both spoken about it. But you know, my respect for Indradyumna Swami just keeps expanding.
I
The
know.
person who's behind this entire thing, and he's kind of the king of the. You know, like I'm going to ask him for a little time if I can speak with him. I hope I can spend a little time with him just to ask him some question. But one thing that I'd like to ask him is, like, he's a deep devotee. He's a person who likes to read Krishna's Leela and feel something, you know? And running big projects, you think that makes it more difficult, you know, because I'm going to have to take on headaches. This whole thing, he's here for over a month. Just a million details, a million potential problems, a bunch of fires that'll need to be put out, and he's the one that ultimately it all rests on. Now, granted, he's managed to find really good people to help carry that load, but it I'm thinking, doesn't that affect your ability to have a peaceful mind and just focus it on God? But I was also thinking, just as you're talking, is you see that he spends hours every day. He'll
There's
wake up
3 hours of he does 3 hours of puja every day.
engaging his senses, his sense of sight, his sense of touch, his sense of smell, his sense of sound, all in connecting him with these incredibly beautiful forms of Krishna that he worships every day. It's deep, and perhaps that gives him the strength to, like, you know what, I put in 2 hours of chanting the mantra, I put in 3 hours of doing the deity worship, that's 5 hours. The rest of my day, I stay connected like that.
There is a magic that every advanced devotee will say, that somehow when you chant more, you have more time. Because you're not spaced out anymore. You're very, very refined in your thinking process and your doing process. So great souls, they spend a long time in their sadhana. They extend it. Maybe you're at first you start it slow, and that's you do 15 minutes of a serious round of japa, and then you'll naturally want to expand that because it feels good and it bleeds into the rest of your day. But someone like Indradyumna Swami, I went up into his room, his altar, his 360 degrees altar
Yeah.
overlooking the Ganga. And he's got, maybe 100 Shalagram Shilas. And they all look pristine.
Oh,
They don't look like old rocks,
neglected,
like an
yeah.
old rock collection. They all look pristine. And I said to him, do you worship one? And then by worshiping that one in your mind, you're worshiping them all? He goes, no, no. Every one of them is bathed every day. Every one of them is oiled every day. And everyone, they all get tulsi every day. It's like a full on job.
Yeah.
Now, in the material eyes, you're like, you do that every day? Come on, give me a break. You spend all this time worshiping your rock things. Give me a
Right.
break. No,
You
no,
know,
no, 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 no. You don't understand. This person has a vision of an internal vision that's been connecting to a culture for millennia. These aren't rock
okay.
things. These are manifestations of the Supreme Lord. And there's an effect that you get from staying in contact with that by doing it in a certain way. It affects your mind, it affects your thoughts, and it's going to go outside of that 3 hours and change your entire day. And this gentleman has this karma of a king where he does have 75 people working under him,
Yeah.
and they're all like engaged 100%, and they're working up to and his people are quite impressive.
He's
They're
by
selfless.
raising his spiritual level, he's raising all of them. And he's
Yeah.
doing that through that puja, just like we're hearing about Ambarish Maharaj, another king who's just like, Raghunath. So I also went up there, and he brought, I brought Jiva, and I brought Chapu, and we all met him up there and saw his puja, and he was really kind to us and spent time with us. And in that room, he must have, I don't know, with all the Shalagram Shilas and all the deities, it was like, I don't know, 30, 40 deities in that room. He said, well, let me come down, you have to see the other deity room,
Yeah, you haven't seen them all, man.
So he brought us downstairs, and there was a room, and in that room, there were all kind of deities. They're all beautiful. And there are four girls, beautiful girls in saris, like all serving all these. Someone has a big Govardhan Sheila and the eyes and everything. Someone's got this other, and someone's grinding sandalwood pulp, and someone's throwing tulsi flower. It was like four girls surrounded by deities with light lit up like they just couldn't be in more bliss, And it was just like you see there's this internal deep spiritual connection that they're all feeling, and then that gets carried out into their service all day, and they're just doing tremendous service and happily.
You know what? We're caught up in our joy right now, but we have to end the
For all
show.
time.
It's
Yeah.
7:04, and Mara's got takeaways.
I do.
Okay, what you got?
Hello,
man?
Miss Mara. We are all saying prayers for you
Thanks, Prabhu.
as we go to the doctor today. Check on Mara after her little incident.
Takeaways. We're trying to make this fleeting world substantial.
We're trying to make this fleeting world substantial. Yes, yes. Good one, Mara.
The soul yearns for something eternal.
Does.
It
It does.
Our life is just a box of old photos that's going to be thrown away.
Don't right in the
that's nice.
dumpster.
Okay. Keep that in
Dumpster.
mind.
The divine right of kings isn't random.
It's not random. We believe in the divine right of kings.
Don't say why me. Understand it's all Krishna's mercy.
Hmm.
Put Krishna and his devotees first, and you'll always be taken care of.
Yeah.
Tie all of your activities to Krishna.
Build that bridge.
The king has so many worries, but is still connected to divinities.
Yeah.
And
And
regard your stone wall as a bubble in a stream.
ouch. Ouch, Kastuba. Oh, thanks for joining us. Steady Eddies, you guys who show up on a regular basis and listen to the show. I want to thank everybody who is a community member to Wisdom or the Sage community member platform. This is a community-sponsored podcast, and we have a wonderful community that keeps this going. If you'd like to contribute or you're getting something valuable from this podcast, you make a minimum or a maximum donation, monthly donation. It really helps us do what we're doing because we couldn't do it without all of you. So thank you very much for all your support. Hey, remember, Wisdom of the Sages is having a retreat at Super Soul Farm, Memorial Day weekend. Mark your calendar. We want to get everybody up here, and we always look forward to it, touching base with everyone. We're going to have lots of kirtan. Kastuba's going to give classes. I'm going to give satsangs. And it's a fun way to celebrate spring. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.